Hey, pawnbrokers, welcome to another episode of the Pawn Leaders Podcast. And with me, I have an exciting guest. I have a female pawnbroker. I'm super excited to have Beth Anundi, who is a true Oregonian. I hope I said that right, Beth. Who was born and raised in the Willamette Valley, where reduce, reuse, recycle, and renew are part of her fiber and why she's so passionate about Capital Pawn in Salem. After graduating from Oregon State University with a BA in English and a master's in teaching, Beth was a writing and literature instructor for 16 years at the local community college before she and her husband decided to open Capital Pawn. She and her husband, Adam, have 3 grown children and consider Capital Pawn an extension of their family. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, thanks for being here. So just to start, we talked about this in the pre-interview a little bit. So Oregonian, I've only been to Portland. It was beautiful. I had some donuts, but it was great. So tell me about where you're from and why you love Salem. I'm guessing that's where your shop is, right?
Right. Yes. I love Salem. I grew up here, so it's in my blood. And Oregon is stunningly beautiful. If you've never been here, I invite you to come out and take a look. It is green all the time due to a little bit of rain, but we love Salem because, yeah, just a tad. Salem is actually the capital of Oregon, and it's based in the Willamette Valley, which features a lot of wine. And of course, we believe it features Capital Pawn very well. I think that's all I have to say about Salem right now. But so it's definitely a reuse, reduce, and recycle kind of area. That's what everything talks about. Everybody's talking about that here.
I love that you say that. You know, the pawn shop I owned with my brother, Cashco Pawn, we were the first green certified pawn shop in the nation, in the world. We built it from reusable items, and we recycled, and all the paint was non-VOC. And so I'm all about saving the environment and helping out as much as I can. So I love the fact that you're from a place that's about that as well. So I'm a little bit afraid, I have to say, because you are a teacher, an English teacher, and I'm sure I have grammar mistakes everywhere in my writing. And so I apologize for that, but let's have some fun. You ready?
Oh, sure.
Cool. So tell me about, first of all, you're the first female on the show. You're the first Oregonian pawnbroker that I've ever met. So tell me a little bit about how you guys got into the business only about 6 years ago, correct?
Right. Yes. We I've been teaching at Chemeketa for a number of years, and I love teaching people and I love learning. And that's something that you do every day in the pawnbroker business. I had never stepped foot into a pawn shop. So that's something you need to know about me before we opened one.
Never.
I never thought about it. And I'm a thrift shopper. So you would think those two things go really well together. You're getting a great bargain in a pawn shop, and they have great used products. And I'm also the whole recycle kind of person. So I like to reuse things. But my husband was working as a mortgage broker for years, about 10 years, and decided that he needed to do something different. And we kept coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas like hydro seeding. That didn't sound exciting to me.
Yeah, I was
not
like,
appealing.
What?
It's basically a big truck that sprays out grass.
Okay.
And then we talked about owning something like a Jamba Juice, which is high protein, high energy. It would be really fun to do that, but it wasn't something that we were really excited about. And we talked about a lot of other ideas, but the one thing that we kept coming back to is, what does Adam really enjoy doing? What do I really enjoy doing? And that's teaching. We love learning. Adam loved helping people with loans, and he also really enjoys firearms, and I love getting a good deal. And the pawn shop was the perfect answer to that. And so in 2011, we actually opened one after a lot of research and a lot of contemplating, a lot of going to garage sales and other pawn shops in the area. And anytime we would travel, we would go to pawn shops as well. So we wanted to see what to do and what not to do when we opened ours. And we opened in September of 2011, and it's been a journey and an adventure ever since.
That's awesome. So it was the perfect mix of what you loved, what Adam loved, combined into one retail place.
Absolutely. And it just keeps getting better. Like we added the bags, the high-end bags.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been so much fun and so interesting to bring in a new group of people. It's just a different group of people that's interested in trading and in getting a new bag and buying high-end luxury at an affordable price.
Wow. That's incredible. So when you went into those other pawn shops, and we won't say who they were,
No.
because you went to go learn what to do and what not to do. So
Right.
let's talk about what you learned to do and that you took into your pawn shop. And then let's talk about what you said, I will not do. And you just excluded it from your procedures or your store. So let's talk about the first part. What did you see that you really liked that you brought into your store to do?
Some things that we really loved: high-end customer service, meaning that when you walked in the door, you were greeted. Somebody said, hey, hello, welcome. Any of those kinds of things. We really wanted to implement that. We wanted it to feel family friendly. So we wanted kids to come in to feel welcome there, and moms to bring in their kids. And we had a tendency to go to places that were filled with a lot of men. A lot of pawn shops are filled with men. And so we noticed that if we were to put something in our shop that would bring in the female clientele, that we might have a different avenue. And so we made it family friendly. And those were the top two priorities: family friendly and consumer or customer relations.
Service. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so the things that you said, I will not do. What were some of those?
It was very hard for me with the smells.
Okay.
If you've ever walked into a pawn shop and you just smell grease or dirt.
Like old mildew kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we did something about that here. And some of the other things just had to do with customer service. So it was just related basically back to, are you creating a customer experience where you're actually interacting with the customer? Have you said hi to the customer?
Mm-hmm.
So we experienced a lot of old school pawn shops that just ignored you until you asked a question, and then maybe they might grumpily say something to you. But that's not always the way it is. It just happened to be that we walked into some and said that's not what we want to have at our shop at all.
Gotcha. So let me go back, because I don't know this information and I would love to know it.
Mm-hmm.
In Oregon, what are the current laws? What do you charge? What's the holding period? Just so people because hopefully people across the nation are listening to this, just so they know what type of business you're running and what the laws are in Oregon.
So it's 3%, and then we have some fees that are attached to that we can charge, which is great. And it ends up being around 9%. So a $100 loan at 60 days, it's going to cost you $117, $119 to pick up.
Okay.
And it's a 14-day hold period for a buy. And for a loan, it's a 60-day loan with a 30-day grace the very first time. And then you can renew it between that anytime in that 90 days. And once you renew it, it's a 60-day loan period.
Once again. Okay, gotcha. I'm from California, which the buy hold is 30 days. And I don't know what the laws are currently, but it's like 4 months and 30 days for a loan. So I could be wrong. It might be one more month. I'm not sure, but great. So open up the pawn shop 6 years ago. You saw what you wanted to do, what you didn't want. Obviously, you gave it a feminine touch, right? Because did you design the pawn shop yourself? Did you guys bring somebody in to do the store? How did that work out when you first put it up?
We actually designed it ourselves. We didn't have a lot of money to put forward toward it. As far as design was concerned, we knew where we wanted to put our money, and design wasn't one of the places. So we did the best we could. When we first opened, as a matter of fact, I think all the pieces of jewelry in the store were mine. And all the firearms belonged to Adam. So we really started out on a shoestring budget, and we did do it ourselves. So what we really tried to do was separate the jewelry section from the firearm section. And then after a while, we actually determined that one of the things that we wanted to do was match up that jewelry with firearms. And so we have what we call a bling and bang sale. So the gentleman that's looking for a firearm, if he wants to purchase that, he can purchase something for his wife at the same time, and they get a discount on the firearm. So it's sort of a fun combination of the two. We didn't want to separate it too much, but we definitely have the jewelry separate, which is sort of near the handbags.
Right.
And
sort
the firearms, sort of near the handbags. And the firearms are in a not a different location, but just separate enough so that if anybody is uncomfortable with firearms, they don't have to go near that area.
Gotcha. And how big is your store?
It's 5,000 square feet in total, but about 1,500 is showroom.
Okay.
And
And the
we're
rest.
growing and growing. So
Nice. Amazing.
we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. So you guys came in basically on the upkick of gold, correct?
Yeah,
As
actually we did.
as the gold price was going up and going up. And then I'm going to guess about 2 or 3 years into the shop, that's when it took the dive.
I think that's actually pretty accurate.
So what did you guys do then? Were you like, oh my God, we're still in the right business? Was it a little bit of hesitation? What happened during that time?
We came in really green. So we actually learned from a pawn shop up the road. We went in and worked for free for him.
Okay.
And so he wasn't dependent on gold. So we didn't really understand that people were becoming dependent on gold because of the gold prices. We knew the gold prices were high, but we never lived off the gold ever.
Yeah.
So instead, what we tried to do is really focus on that customer service so that we had customers coming back in looking at firearms and looking at jewelry and looking at electronics. We really tried to focus mostly on who our customers are versus bringing in a lot of gold. So we never really had, I've heard of people having sort of a slump after the gold rush, essentially. And we never really experienced that to any degree.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So,
And what percentage is your sales versus your interest income?
that is a good question that I should know the answer to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
We just looked at all these figures too. I know that our gun sales are 40%. That's the only thing that's coming to mind. So
that's great. No, that's great. So gun sales are 40%. So it's an income that maybe some pawnbrokers who are listening don't have at the moment that might be thinking about. So it does a good job when it comes to the sales in the shop. What is it?
Yeah.
What is a pawn shop in Oregon? When you talk about like California, if a pawn shop doesn't have, $500,000 in the pawn loans, they're not doing so well. It's very, very hard for them to make money. In Oregon, what's kind of like the medium, pawn balance that pawn shops should have so that they're successful?
I've looked at these statistics fairly recently, and what I've noticed is that a lot of pawn shops are right around the $100,000 mark.
Okay.
As a loan base.
Mm.
And so I feel like most of them are fairly successful, sitting right there. We're excited about moving beyond that and have moved beyond that. And one of the things that we did in order to do that is actually look at our Google reviews and really focus on our Google reviews and how can we get those Google reviews higher and what do we need to do in order to get people to write those Google reviews. And so we've really focused on pushing that in order to get our loan base higher.
How did you do that? So let's share some of that knowledge with everybody else who's listening. I believe reviews are very, very important when it comes to Google, when it comes to, Yelp, when it comes to just like Instagram, Facebook. It's super important to have good reviews because that's an indicator of your service. So what did you do to push those reviews?
We ask all the time. That's our number one thing that we do is anytime we have a good customer at the counter or a customer that's excited about what we've done, somebody that we've helped out in any way, we always ask, have you left us a Google review before? That's the one way that we can really help people understand your story. And I think 1 out of every 25 people that we ask ends up leaving a Google review because it's not really an easy task in all honesty. And they do have to go home and write it up. But we ask every single customer at the counter to write a Google review.
That's great. That's great. There's a barbecue place here, Phil's Barbecue. They are, I think, the #1 reviewed restaurant on Yelp. And they have a billboard that before you order that says, before you Yelp, ask for help.
Oh, that's great.
So anybody who has an issue, before they get on their phone and they complain, they know that management is open to trying to solve their issues. Let's fix this. And they do it all the time. And they're great. And it's 2 hours to go eat at this barbecue place in California. So,
and people do it because of the reviews.
People do it because of the reviews. People do it because the food obviously is great, but they know that when you open up their Google page, their Facebook page, there's thousands of reviews.
We want to get to that point. We are right now the most rated Google reviewed shop, I guess, essentially in Oregon.
Oh, nice.
We have over 300 reviews, but we want to get to thousands of reviews. That would be great.
Awesome. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about being a female in the industry. I went to MPA conventions for 16 years, 14 years, Kappa conventions, and it's a very male-dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
Give us your take from a female, what you see, how it is working at the shop being a female, being a mom, right? I know that how old are your kids?
They are old now, 17, 19, and 21.
All right. So you started this when they were teenagers.
Yes.
So how is it being a woman working in the pawn shop, leading a team,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many employees do you have?
We have 7 currently, and then Adam and myself. So 9
leading
total.
A team of employees, how is that being in this industry as a woman?
I would say one of the biggest things that's kind of fun about being a female in this industry is the shock. That when I show up and say, oh, I'm a pawnbroker, people are always shocked. And that's sort of fun to help them move over that mountain of surprise and really the stereotype of a pawn shop owner or what a pawn shop employee looks like, moving through that stereotype. So that's been a really fun experience and a fun part of it. And you talked about NPA going to the conventions. I've noticed we've been to 5 now, and over the last 5 years at Expo, we've done several in the we've been to Midwest once. There are lots more women now than there were even when we first started.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I feel it in the same way that maybe you did when you were going 15 years ago or even 10 years ago. So I feel like I do have sort of a cohort now where I might not have 5 years ago. There's a really good vibe to it as well. As far as being a female and being in the industry, you really have this niche that no one else in the industry has because we connect differently. So we're talking about high-end handbags and we're talking about jewelry in a different way than our male counterparts are because we really truly live those things. So that's been another fun aspect of it. As far as being a mom, family is first for me. So this has been a crazy experience with my kids for them to go to school and say, yeah, my parents are pawnbrokers. What? What's that? Most kids don't even know what that is.
Like on TV?
Exactly. Like Pawn Stars? Yes. So we get that a little bit. But as far as being a mom, it's been really important to show my kids that when you have something and you can give it away, you can donate it, or you can resell it, those are 2 big things that you should be doing as an adult. So let's learn those things now. How old were they 5 years ago? So 16, 14, and 12 or something like that. And it was really good to show them the actual world value of a video game that you have. You can donate that, you can resell it, or you can keep it and play it. And it was a real world demonstration every day for them with anything that they had. So that was a really positive thing in their lives. And they also work here periodically.
Oh, nice. You got the extra help. I remember when I was young in the industry, my father, it's hard to buy something when you're a pawnbroker. And when you're a pawnbroker's kid, it's worse because paying full retail, are you joking me? So, so have your kids learned the art of negotiation or the art of finding a good deal as well as you can donate and sell it and here's the true value?
Yes. So they also are, I like to call us value shoppers because we like to get the very best deal that we can get. And we use all kinds of coupons and things so that we can get a great deal, right? That's part of being a pawnbroker too. That's our mentality is you want to get the best deal. So yeah, they've kind of turned into a little bit of that as well, especially my oldest who is, he's 21, like I said, and he actually lives near you and is a Marine, and he's always in the thrift shops, in the pawn shops, searching for great deals for Legos and things.
All right. Nice.
So.
And you forget about it. So I left the industry 2.5 years ago and I went to go buy myself some headphones. I'm looking at them right here, right? So these are the headphones right here. And they're the Bose Quiet Comfort 35. They're like $350 retail. I went to the store, I bought them. I came home and I looked at it and I said, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I call my brother or somebody else in the pawn industry? So I went on Facebook and I put in one of the chats. I said, anybody have these? And in 3 seconds, somebody 10 minutes away from me said, Yigal, I have it. come get it. Don't be an idiot. Remember you were a pawnbroker. So yeah, you get great deals. That's for sure. So thanks for reminding me of that. I appreciate it.
Sometimes it's fun to have new things. However, it's really fun to get a deal.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that was one of the best things about the industry, right? Best part of the business is you went home and probably just like us, my TV, my MacBook, my everything is from the pawn shop, right? So
Yes.
are your female friends envious of all the handbags that you can walk around with if you want?
They actually almost, so I do this weird thing where I trial run things, or I call it a test drive. So my jewelry is I'm test driving this item.
Okay.
And so, yes, they do ask me about my jewelry all the time. Are you test driving that, or is that yours? Are you test driving that bag, or is it yours? So, and I keep reminding them, you can come in and get whatever you want, and it's going to cost you so much less here than it is in a new retail environment.
Nice.
So they're a little bit jealous, but they're really good about it.
Nice. And if they wanted, they can come get a good deal from you.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So tell me about what you feel Capital is doing that's different than either the shops in your area or that you just feel as a pawnbroker you're proud of. It may be in your marketing, may be in your service. What are you guys doing differently that you think is taking your business to the next level?
Oh, I love that you use that. That's our theme this year, the next level.
That's right.
So good job. One of the things that we're doing not just this year, but in general, the customer service so it's supposed to be top notch. So as soon as you walk in, you should be greeted. And that is something that we don't see in a big box retail store. You don't see that there. And you don't see it in a lot of pawn shops across the country, although they're moving toward that. So customer service, again, I go back to customer service, our Google reviews, that's very different from most pawn shops in this area. And I would say also that one of the other things that we do is that we create relationships. We just had a young gal from South Salem High School come in, and she did a penny drive for a teacher that we participated in. This teacher had breast cancer, and we participated in a penny drive where we just matched the funds. And for, I think it was 45 days, people came in and dropped their change in there. And we just matched those funds. And we actually did that last night. And that's something that we do differently as well. We're very purposeful about being local and participating in the community. And this was just a small way for us to do that.
I love it. I think that's super important for pawn shops to get involved with the community. I think that's how we grew our shops. We were very, very involved, from doing activities to donating money to sponsoring the baseball team, just being a part of the community because they pay your paycheck essentially. You don't sign them, they do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing to wrap your mind around that. We forget that sometimes, but it's good to remember that the community that's who we are. Without them, we'd be nothing. So,
yeah. And especially in these days with the whole online and all these different apps, you want to be out there for the community so that they know that you have their back, so that they have yours.
Absolutely.
So before they go sell it on OfferUp or eBay, they can come to you first. Before they go buy it at a retail location, they say, wait a second, Capital helped out our community, helped out our school. Let me go check out what they have and see if I can help them out as well.
Right. And remember, as a teacher, that's what I did. I mean, that's my passion, is helping people helping people learn and teaching. So it's just in this environment, I don't have to grade papers and I don't have to do lesson planning, which is awesome. So it's been good.
And I'm sure you get paid a little bit more than a teacher does. Teachers do such great work, but they're so underpaid. So
agreed. And I would say that here has been a lot more beneficial as far as seeing an instant result. Sometimes as a teacher, you don't see that instant result. Teaching, you see it in the future, but here you see an instant result. That person can go and pay their electric bill. The person walks out with a beautiful handbag that they've been wanting for 6 months, or they walk out with a firearm that they absolutely love and they are happy. So we see an instant result here.
Beth, in the last 6 years, what has been the hardest moment for you running the shop?
Christmas Eve.
Okay. Tell us about it.
So we are open on Christmas Eve, and my kids, remember, they weren't young, but they were teenagers. And I feel like teenagers need their parents just as much as little kids do. And so Christmas Eve, we would be down here working. And then New Year's Eve, actually, we would be down here doing inventory. So those have been the two most difficult things because they took me away from my family. And I'm a huge believer in the fact that my family comes first. But in those two instances, I had to be here and be prepared and put forth a great effort in order to make my business a success. And my kids were awesome and they understood that. And half the time they were with us during those times. So we did make it fun.
Nice. So it's a quicker inventory. It's a quicker inventory with that many hands, right?
Sometimes.
So how do you keep that balance? How do you do it? You know, family, you keep saying families first. And for us in the Pawn Leaders, we work on balancing, you know, the pawn shop and life and making sure that we are present for our families and our kids. How do you, Beth, how do you make sure that you're balanced so that your three kids have what they need? Your husband, although you work together, you guys have what you need, as well as your team and your store has what it needs.
I feel like that's a significant question. I really have struggled with it over the years. However, what we found worked really, really well was finding a really amazing crew, and they are able to run the show without us. And if we didn't prepare them and train them and work hard to make sure that they could do this without us, we would not be able to go to my son's wrestling tournaments. We would not be able to travel to see my son on base, and we wouldn't be able to share in my daughter's college education as much as we do. And it really is all because we really were focused and intentional about creating a team that was able to work essentially without us here. That was one of our goals about 3 years ago.
So how do you find those incredible employees, the people that are willing to learn, who listen to you and they do what you need them to do and then go above and beyond, like you said, to the next level, so you can go enjoy what you need to in your life? Like, what did you guys do to find those key team members?
That was a difficult process. And I think it's a difficult process almost every time that we've hired somebody. I can recall one time looking through over 100 applications and interviewing 15 because I was just taking whoever at that point. I did hire one gentleman who's still with us, and he's been with, I think this is his third year, and he's great. He's our big teddy bear. But how we went about doing that really was making sure that we know who we're looking for and then making them part of our family. And what I mean is the pawn shop family, not our own family. But we do work really hard at creating team unity. For example, we just took them on a scavenger hunt recently.
Nice.
And yeah, it was really fun. Everybody had to participate, and it was all local. So we participated at local bars and restaurants and venues so that it felt local to the community. And they really felt like they had bonded over that event. And we've done an escape room before. We go bowling. We try and do a lot of different things because we can at our size with 7 employees. And we've had 8 up to 10. And we can at that size still do things and really come out feeling unified. And I would say that that's probably the number one thing that we've done in order for us to feel like they can run the show, and in order for them to feel actually like they have ownership, is working together as a team with the people that own the place.
That's awesome. You reminded me of a story when my brother and I, we did all this building culture and making sure that we take care of our employees as well. We would go bowling and one employee would say, "That's the first time I've ever been bowling." We'd go play like miniature golf. "Hey, that's the first time. Thank you." We took them to a concert. "Hey, that's the first time. Thank you." When you improve your team's lives, they will do everything to improve yours. That's what I believe.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And we've seen that. And that was part of what I wanted to do, was say, what things haven't you guys experienced, or what things wouldn't you spend your money on? We're going to spend our money on getting you to that point or getting you to that event. So we've tried to do that as a unit and get them to do something new or different. And you're right. I had several guys say, "I've never done a scavenger hunt. I had no idea what to expect. That was super fun."
Nice. That's awesome. So working with my brother wasn't easy. It was a love-hate relationship. The good thing is that he was the sales guy, the front, loved things. I was more of the back end, more of dealing with the marketing and the accounting and the lawyers and all this, all the police departments, whatever it is that you have to deal with in the back end, that was me. But we'd fight. There'd be times where we'd fight, but we'd, kiss and make up, and we'd disagreements but we went to our separate houses. You work with your husband, you have to come back to the same bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of pawnbrokers out there do the same. Give us some words of wisdom, Beth, of what's made it so great and what you've done, what you've avoided doing so that it doesn't interfere with the relationship.
Well, I think you said one thing that was really important is that you'd fight and then you'd make up. And that's called communication. And that is one major thing that we have, thankfully, is that we actually have pretty good communication skills, thankfully, because we do wake up together, drive to work together, drive home together, go to bed together. So we're together a lot. And we also have another thing you said, 2 different things that we do. I do a lot of the back end stuff. I do a lot of the personnel. I do a lot of the marketing, and I do a lot of stuff on the floor, but it's different than what Adam does. He does a lot of the pawnbrokering actually at the pawnbroker counter. And I don't do that as much as he does. I am the person that goes out and creates relationships with the people on the floor. So they may be standing in the pawn line, but I'm talking to them and I'm getting to know their story. So I do a lot more of the collecting stories and helping them stand in line, helping them move to the correct line if they're in the wrong line, things like that. So we do 2 very different things. And so I would say communication is key. And then the other thing is make sure that you know your role.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't intertwine and try to say, hey, it's my shop. I can say what I want.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That doesn't work out very well.
So tell me if I'm wrong. You're very involved in the Oregon State Association.
Yes.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about that in case someone's listening who's not part of the association. I'd hope that those who listen are part of an association. But tell us about what the Oregon Pawn Association looks like, what they do for the state, and tell us how to find them in case somebody wants to.
Sure. So there are about 84 pawn shops in Oregon, and a number of them are part of the Pawnbrokers Association. We do believe that part of the reason that you have an association is so that you have insurance for your business. And a really good example of that is if you pay your cable bill and you watch Pawn Stars, you're supporting your cable bill watching Pawn Stars, but you could use that money, that very small amount, remember, to actually support yourself in your own state, in your own shop, and keep things like legislation that affects you either at bay or coming through the front doors. Depends on what the legislation is. But the biggest thing that OPA does for us is that it keeps an eye on legislation and makes sure that we're in the right frame of mind when we do need to step up to the plate.
Awesome. Beth, I want to thank you. This has been an incredible interview. I think you're a gift to the pawnbroking industry because you're so involved 6 years in. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to continue the conversation, remember that you can go to the Pawn Leaders Podcast community on Facebook. And if you want to level up your business like Beth is doing this year, go to pawnleaders.com to join a mastermind of other pawnbrokers who are in it to create more power, more profit, and just more peace of mind. So Beth, once again, thank you so much for being on the show, and talk to you soon.